You're listening to the Fort Erie Podcast, your local source for upcoming events, hot new listings, and bite-sized interviews with business and community leaders. Here's your host, Brent Jones.
Hey, welcome to the Fort Erie Podcast. It is Tuesday, October the 29th. It is almost Halloween. Happy almost Halloween. I'm your host, Brent Jones, and today's episode, I'm going to be talking with Don Irvin, who some of you may know as The Lonely Guy, owner and proprietor of The Lonely Guy Boutique in Ridgeway, also the treasurer of the Ridgeway BIA. So my chat with him is going to be coming up in just a moment. Just before we get into my hot real estate listings of the week here, I wanted to touch base on an event coming up. And I know, dear listener, you might be wondering, Brent, don't you usually talk about community events at the end of each episode? And the answer is yes, and we'll do that today too. But I want to highlight one special event, really because, I'm the one putting it together. So I'm going to make use of a minute here to tell you about a food drive that I'm put together here for COPE, Community Outreach Program Erie, COPE Fort Erie, most of you know it as, coming up on Saturday, November the 9th. So this is going to be a food drive in the Sobeys parking lot. I'll be there from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. collecting food and collecting toiletries. And here's the best part, guys. Well, it's not the best part. The best part is you make a donation and help COPE. That's the best part. The second best part, if you make a donation, I will give you a free Fort Erie Podcast t-shirt. So some of you have seen on social media that I have the Fort Erie Podcast t-shirts made up. I've got about 100 of them in sizes small, medium, large, and extra large. While supplies last, I will give away a t-shirt to every person who makes a donation to COPE. Saturday, November the 9th, 10 until 2. You can find the right outside Sobeys. You can find the event on Facebook. Please share it around. Please tell a friend. I'm hoping to have a great turnout. So with that kind of out of the way, or that covered, let's move on to hot listings for the week. Now notice, I didn't say hot new listings this week because the two listings I want to talk about are not new. They're hot, but they are not new. And they both feature new prices, and they both have open houses coming up this weekend. And yes, you might have already guessed it, they are both my listings. So previous episodes, I've highlighted listings from other agents. This episode, I'm going to be a little bit selfish. I'm going to talk about two of my own listings because I'm excited about them and because I'm hoping you may want to come out to the open house this weekend and check them out for yourself. Let me just answer this first. I get questions sometimes from people after listening to an episode, how come I don't mention prices? I go through all of these specs about new listings and I don't talk about the prices. Well, the reason is you may be listening to this episode Tuesday, October the 29th, but I record the hot new listings section a couple of days before the episode actually comes out. So I don't ever want to give a price during the recording and then have that price end up being wrong when it comes time for the episode to actually be released. So in a similar format, I'm going to walk through these two listings. The first one here is 11 Malkin Avenue. That's right across from the old fort. There was an open house coming up this Saturday, November 2nd, 2 to 4 p.m. Come out and see me, say hello, and have a look at this beautiful bungalow. Awesome family-friendly neighborhood. I mean, this home is just minutes from everything. I mentioned the old fort, but Niagara River, Friendship Trail, amenities on Garrison, open concept main level. There's updates throughout. Newer roof, newer furnace, newer central air, some newer windows. It's got a nice kind of private backyard, and it's a lot bigger than it looks in the photos. Head on over to theforteriepodcast.com and access the show notes below this episode. You'll see what I mean. It is a beautiful home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, fully finished basement with a large open space, rec room ideally. Next, my second listing for this week, my second real estate pick is going to be 305 Dufferin Street. So this is a bungalow in the north end, and this is just a great looking home, well maintained from the outside. Features updates all throughout, including fresh paint, sanded and stained original hardwood flooring. There's some newer windows, newer roof, brand new central air put in this year, new privacy fencing in the backyard, walk out to a brand new side deck right at the side of the house there. Plenty of updates throughout to the bathroom and the kitchen. There's 3 bedrooms above grade and a possible 4th in the partially finished basement. It's a lot of house for the money. And I encourage you, come see for yourself. The open house for that home, 305 Dufferin Street, will be this Sunday, November the 3rd, from 2 until 4 p.m. Now on to my conversation with Don Irvin. What's going on, everybody? I'm here at the Lonely Guy Boutique in beautiful downtown Ridgeway, sitting here with owner-operator Don Urban. Don, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brent. Glad to be here.
Hey, man, I'm happy to sit down and chat with you, too, because you're a lonely guy, apparently.
I am.
Well, a little less lonely now, I guess. But I like to start out by asking all of my guests pretty close to the same question, which is, what makes Fort Erie, or in your case, Ridgeway more specifically, such an awesome place to live and work?
It's the people. It's the people. Since I've opened up, I've got to know a lot of the local people, and they're very supportive of the business, and they're just great to work with. I mean, they'll stop by just to say hi, and It's a great environment.
And from what I understand, though, you're involved in the community in a number of different ways, aside from operating the store.
Yes. I'm a member of the Ridgeway BIA, Business Improvement Association. I'm the treasurer there, and I also do accounting work and real estate appraisal.
Well, I feel like there's got to be an interesting story there of going from I'm an accountant to I really want to run like a men's clothing store. Tell me a little bit about that transition. I mean, how did that come about?
Well, I've got 4 clients right across the street. 2 of them being women's clothing stores,
right.
And this location became vacant, and I saw a need for good men's clothing in town.
Well, I'd say so. Yeah, it's interesting. This store really stands out on the street, don't you think?
It does, and I get a lot of people just coming in to see what it's all about.
Just curiosity, almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's good. Curiosity fuels business sometimes, right?
It does. It really does.
Well, who's your store for? I mean, describe your typical customer.
It can be an 18-year-old high school kid right up to somebody who's going to a wedding or a formal function.
Really? So a little bit for everybody.
A little bit
right?
of everything, yeah.
Okay. So did you always know you wanted to get involved in some type of retail venture, or did the idea just come to you one day?
No, not at all. I didn't. 5 years ago, if you asked me if I'd be opening a men's clothing store, I said, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
But no, I mean, having 2 clients in the clothing trade, I kind of got an interest in it and have some experience in it. So,
right.
Yeah, it just seemed natural.
Have you always been a sharp dresser yourself?
No.
No, kind of just figuring it out as you go, eh?
Exactly.
Do you feel that pressure now that you have to be well dressed all the time?
Well, I think so. I think anybody in business needs to have a certain level of decorum. But,
Sure.
Yeah. Now I wear my own stuff, and a lot of people say, hey, you know what? I like that shirt on you, so hook me up.
And where'd you get it? Yeah, and then it's like pretty natural conversation, right? Well, I like to help listeners get to know my guests as much as possible with just some fun little, almost trivia questions, a rapid fire question round. So We'll take about a minute. I'm going to shoot out first thing that comes to mind. Just blurt it out. All right. What compliment do people give you the most?
You have nice shoes.
Nice shoes. Good. What's your favorite meal of the day?
Evening dinner.
Evening dinner. Yeah. All right, good. What fashion trend are you least excited about right now, particularly for men?
Bell bottoms coming back.
Okay, I think I'm right there with you. So, do you have any pets?
I have a cat.
You have 1 cat?
1 cat.
All right. How would you rate yourself with technology on a scale of 1 to 10?
7.
7? Okay. Yeah. 7 is better, I think, than most people would rate themselves. If you could sit next to anyone for a super long flight, who would it be and why?
Donald Trump. Yeah. Just because I think it would be really entertaining.
I'm sure you'd have stories by the time it's done.
Yeah.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
To be able to fly.
Fly?
Yeah.
That'd be good. Good way to beat traffic.
Yeah.
Which leads to the next one. Longest car ride you've ever been on, or longest road trip?
8 hours to Boston, nonstop.
Boston's a beautiful town, eh?
It is.
What are you going to dress up as for Halloween this year?
You know what? I don't know, Brad.
You're going to take a pass on the last one.
Take a pass on that one. Wow.
That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Well, that was the rapid fire round and we survived together. So that's the main thing.
Wow.
Let's get back to talking about Ridgeway, really. What are some of your favorite businesses? If you wanted to give some shout outs to some businesses downtown Ridgeway that are making a difference, who comes to mind?
You know what? Lasting impressions across the street. Sarah's great. She's really promoting downtown. 3 Ferris's across the street. Ferris. Everybody's really cool. There's an art gallery, Raven Art Gallery. Kim, she's really involved. Marjot, she really. I see her picking garbage up downtown. She's really interested in keeping downtown beautiful, and I think everybody pulls together and are concerned about, downtown.
Keeping it beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's that sense of community here that just is hard to find in other places?
It is. I hear people who've just moved here from big city like Toronto.
Yeah.
And they get startled because people will say hello to them, and they're not used to that. And I'm serious.
I've had that experience, because I get used to that when I'm cycling the Friendship Trail. You see somebody, you nod, you smile, you say hello, and then if I go back to Toronto for a day, it's like, oh wait, people don't do that here. It's
You say that in Toronto, and you're going to get slapped.
Yeah, they get a weird side eye, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
It's interesting for me as a realtor maybe to pose this question to you, because I think just before the show, for those of you listening, Don was just telling me a little bit about how he's just about finished this I guess last course in appraisal of real estate, right? And if you were to make some predictions about not just real estate, but I guess the economic development of Ridgeway as a whole, what do you see happening in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's going to continue to grow. You see almost every vacant lot is starting to be developed.
Absolutely.
And people still, moving here from people from Sudbury, people from Toronto, people from Burlington, all over. I just think it's a beautiful town, and I think it's just starting to be discovered.
It's going to keep right on growing.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Great. I tend to share your opinion, and for those of you listening, make sure to connect with Don. If you'd like, of course, stop by the Lonely Guy Boutique. What are your hours?
I'm open 10 to 5 Monday to Saturday, and 11 to 4 on Sunday.
Okay, great. So stop by the store, or you can check out links in the show notes just below this episode, so you can connect with Don online. And otherwise, thank you so much for spending some time with me.
Oh, my pleasure, Brent. Thank you for having me.
Okay, welcome back, folks. Let's conclude this episode with community events coming up in the next 7 days or so. We're going to start in Stevensville. The Stevensville Wednesday Market, the Farmers Market. Its last day for 2019 is going to be Wednesday, October the 30th from 3 until 7 p.m. Also happening on Wednesday, October 30th, the Lock and Key Social at the Fort Erie Native Friendship Center. This is on Halloween Day, on Thursday, October the 31st, Halloween Family Fun Day at the Early On Child and Family Center. That's going on from 10:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Make sure to dress up in your costume. Come out and celebrate. Also on Halloween, October 31st, from 4 until 7 p.m., there's the annual Halloween Bash for kids. I believe this is being hosted at the Ridgeway Legion. Yes, 228 South Mill Street. Lots of activities. Joe Crawford to perform a comedy show. Should be fun. On November the 2nd, which is Saturday, if I remember correctly, we've got the Joseph Ribkoff Trunk Show. This is being hosted by the Stevensville Garden Gallery, and it's happening from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. Trailside Bar and Grill is doing something really neat, a kids' Halloween costume contest. You can win a $25 gift card, and I've linked in the show notes below this episode to all the contest entry rules. Basically, you send in a photo of your kid in their Halloween costume. You have until November 5th to do this, and you can win a gift certificate. So check out the details on that. Fort Erie Public Library at the Centennial Branch, Tuesday, November 5th, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. is hosting their writers group. So this is a great opportunity for local writers. I believe they meet once per month to talk about writing tips, share the craft, so to speak. And finally, I want to highlight also happening Tuesday, November the 5th from 7 until 8 p.m. You've got chair yoga, which is being hosted, I believe, at the Aroma Bubbles Lifestyle Boutique. Yes, that's it, at 12 Jarvis Street. Again, happening 7 until 8 p.m. If you like yoga, but you're not a big fan of getting on the floor, try chair yoga. You may really like it. All right. That concludes community events for this week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Fort Erie Podcast. I'm excited to mention that next week, episode number 5 of season 1, I'll be talking with Mary Lou Ambrose Little, who many of you probably know as the events manager and organizer of the Ridgeway Farmers Market. So long, everybody. I'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to the Fort Erie Podcast with your host, Brent Jones, a sales representative with RE/MAX Niagara Realty Limited Brokerage. Follow @BuyWithBrent on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates. Subscribe to the Fort Erie Podcast on popular platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and catch a new bite-sized episode every week. Until next time.